A major life change for now convicted Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. From refusing to speak with cops.
What happens when a popular family vlogger loses everything and trades followers for a prison cell? Ruby Franke's story shocked millions, moving from online fame to a harsh sentence for that stripped her of anonymity and freedom. But prison life is far from simple punishment. Her days inside are filled with constant surveillance, isolation, and the heavy reality of her actions. How does someone so publicly known navigate life behind bars, and why does her sentence extend beyond just serving time? The fall from fame. Ruby Franke was once a household name on YouTube, known for her Mormon family vlogging channel that garnered millions of followers. Her videos portrayed an idealized family life, full of wholesome lessons and parenting tips that drew a devoted audience. But beneath the surface of internet stardom, troubling allegations began to emerge. The public was stunned when Ruby was charged with aggravated a devastating accusation that revealed a far darker reality behind the smiling facade. The charges centered around the severe mistreatment of her 12-year-old son, who had escaped from the family home with restraints still binding his limbs. His condition shocked medical professionals and neighbors alike. He was severely malnourished and bore injuries that demanded immediate medical intervention. This harrowing situation triggered a nationwide conversation about child safety, parental responsibility, and social media's role in exposing uncomfortable truths. Many found it difficult to reconcile the friendly face they had known online with the allegations of abuse. The paradox of Ruby's public image versus the private reality thrust the case into the spotlight. News outlets and online communities dissected every detail, amplifying public outrage and generating widespread condemnation. Her former business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, was also implicated, receiving a similar sentence as their roles in the events came under scrutiny. Despite the severity of the accusations and the media frenzy, few outside truly understood what the maximum sentence she received meant for her life moving forward. The courtroom marked a turning point. Ruby's fall from grace was official, and it was irreversible. Public sympathy had largely evaporated, replaced by calls for justice and accountability. But as the layers peeled back, the story of Ruby Franke's life after the sentence would prove even more complex and demanding than anyone anticipated. This case raised profound questions about how justice is served in modern society, especially for those once bathed in the spotlight of social media fame. Was her punishment simply a legal requirement, or was it a symbol of society's intolerance for no matter who commits it? Then there was the question of what awaited her beyond the courthouse. How does an influencer cope with life confined behind prison walls, stripped of all former privileges? The answers lay in the reality she began to face immediately after sentencing. Ruby's story also sparked debates about how the digital age shapes accountability. When online personas fall, the consequences ripple far beyond the individual, affecting fan communities, advertisers, and cultural discussions about parenting. It made people consider how much truth social media reveals and how much it conceals. Ruby Franke's case became a cautionary tale about the blurred lines between public image and private reality. For millions, her journey was a stark reminder that internet fame offers no immunity from the law or from moral reckoning. Ruby's fall exposed the limitations of curated online lives and the grave consequences when such lives mask real harm. Yet, even as her story unfolded in headlines, the most personal chapter, her prison life, remained largely unseen, waiting to reveal the weight of accountability she carries daily. Though the spotlight was harsh and unrelenting, it was only the beginning of Ruby's true reckoning. The maximum penalty handed down by the judge was merely a gateway to a life measured not in views or subscribers, but in confinement, isolation, and reflection. The courtroom drama was only the opening act. What followed was the stark reality of the sentence and the environment Ruby would inhabit behind bars. The sentence and prison placement. After her sentencing, Ruby Franke was booked as an offender at the Utah State Correctional Facility, a relatively new prison located just 5 miles from Salt Lake City Airport. This modern complex houses approximately 3,600 inmates across different security levels. designed to manage various populations with care and control. Ruby was placed in the Dell housing unit, the only section dedicated exclusively to female inmates, where 367 women live under strict institutional oversight. Her placement was not incidental. Ruby's case had captured national attention, making her one of the most recognized figures among American inmates. Prison officials understood that every other prisoner would know who she was and what she was convicted for. A harsh truth in prison culture is that offenses related to children are among the most despised and severely punished by other inmates. This reality demanded special management to attempt to preserve her safety. Being confined in a high-profile case carries unique burdens. Ruby was no longer just a person behind bars. She was a symbol of scandal and moral failure. The facility's constant surveillance ensures that every movement and interaction is tracked relentlessly. Days begin before dawn with harsh alarms and fluorescent lights flickering on, signaling the start of a regimented and dehumanizing routine. Participants in these systems are reduced from individuals to mere numbers, stripped of their former identity and autonomy. For Ruby, this meant that her life was governed by strict counts multiple times a day, regimented meals, fixed recreational hours, and limited opportunities for genuine interaction. Her time outside the common areas was confined to heavily monitored recreation slots, where any real connection with other inmates was scarce or entirely absent. This form of administrative separation, sometimes called protective custody, comes with psychological costs. Studies reveal that extended periods in such isolation can severely damage mental health and emotional well-being. The prison environment also demanded constant vigilance. The nature of her crimes placed Ruby at the bottom of the inmate hierarchy. Those convicted of child-related offenses are often considered untouchable only behind secure barriers. Despite official protection, concerns about her safety never fully dissipate. Risks remain from the complex social dynamics of prison life, where status and retribution operate continuously beneath the surface. Beyond physical risks, Ruby confronts the social isolation that comes from intense stigma. Fellow inmates know her case, having followed the media coverage, documentaries, trial footage, and police reports that went viral. While once she controlled her narrative online, inside prison walls, she has no shield from the judgments and hostility of those around her. The weight of that notoriety intensifies the emotional and physical limits of confinement. At the Utah State Correctional Facility, Ruby's confinement is a daily process of adjustment to a world defined by rules and restrictions, surveillance, and separation. This new reality breaks sharply from the public life she once led, underscoring the full force of the consequences decreed by the court. Yet while many imagine prison as an escape from public scrutiny, Ruby's story reveals it as a magnification of the challenges she now faces. The rigid structure of the prison controls every aspect of Ruby's day, but the true challenge lies in the daily experience of living confined, isolated, and under constant observation. Daily life behind bars. Ruby Franke's daily existence inside the female unit of Utah State Correctional is marked by relentless routine, confinement, and limited human contact. From waking before dawn to the flickering of fluorescent lights, each day is regimented and stripped of spontaneity. The building erupts into noise, guards shouting orders, doors clanging open and shut, and inmates murmuring or shouting back. In this environment, individuality is lost, replaced by the uniform designation of offender. For the majority of her waking hours, Ruby remains confined to limited communal areas with little freedom to move or interact meaningfully with others. She spends most of her time in administrative separation, known also as protective custody, where interaction with other inmates is minimal and heavily monitored. This enforced isolation is intended to protect her, but comes with steep psychological effects. Scientific studies on extended isolation show it leads to increased anxiety, distorted perceptions of time, cognitive difficulties, and depression. For Ruby, the lack of genuine conversation and meaningful social contact makes mental and emotional health fragile. The constant supervision by guards further reduces any sense of privacy or personal agency, Mail from the outside world provides another dimension to Ruby's daily experience. Hundreds of letters arriving are filled not with support, but with condemnation. People from around the globe write to express disgust and remind her of the harm she caused her children. This unrelenting barrage of hostility serves as a constant reminder of her crimes and deprived status within the prison community. Unlike her life before, when she operated behind a camera lens and controlled her narrative, Ruby cannot escape or hide. The walls that contain her also trap her in a reality shaped by judgment, remorse, real or self-proclaimed, and the weight of public vilification. Every moment blurs together in a slow and punishing passage of time. This environment amplifies the psychological toll of incarceration, exacerbating feelings of despair and isolation. Without therapy that fully counteracts these effects, or medication that can restore lost clarity, Ruby's mental well-being faces serious threats. The prison experience imposes an endurance test not just physically, but on the mind and spirit. Acceptance of her new identity as prisoner rather than personality dawns slowly, but inevitably. The freedom she once took for granted is replaced by strict schedules, limited privacy, and constant evaluation. In this new life, even small acts, like standing for inmate counts or eating under watchful eyes, embody a loss broader than physical liberty. As months turn into years, this daily reality hardens into the fabric of Ruby's life. Her sentence is indeterminate, meaning that hope is ambiguous and release uncertain. This unending routine, punctuated by oppressive observation and isolation, is the true sentence she must serve, long after the courtroom pronouncement has faded. In the shadow of daily confinement lies an even more invisible threat: the constant pressure of safety concerns and the social realities of prison life that Ruby must navigate. Safety and social challenges. In prison culture, reputation and social hierarchy shape every interaction. And for someone like Ruby Franke, the challenges are particularly sharp. Convicted of crimes involving children, she occupies the lowest rung on the inmate ladder, a position that carries significant risk and isolation. Other prisoners view offenders of this nature as fundamentally different, deserving of exclusion or worse. Protecting Ruby requires constant vigilance from the facility's staff, but no system is foolproof. Even with protective custody, Ruby faces a palpable threat every day.
Former mom influencer Ruby Franke and her business partner were both convicted on charges and could face up to 30 years in prison for what she did to their family.
Inmates who target people convicted of often gain status among certain groups, making those they pursue vulnerable to harassment or violence. There have been documented cases where protocols break down, transfers go awry, or guards miss signs, allowing harm to occur. Ruby lives with the knowledge that a single mistake or lapse could put her in danger, heightening her anxiety and shaping every cautious movement within the prison walls. This constant state of alertness creates a psychological burden that is difficult for outsiders to understand. Every footstep echoes suspicion. Every shadow could signal confrontation. Guards' actions, interactions with other inmates, and even minor disturbances hold amplified significance when safety hangs in the balance. For Ruby, daily prison life is not just about physical confinement. It is a continuous negotiation of survival in a hostile social environment. Beyond immediate safety, Ruby is also living with a kind of heavy stigma. Her identity as a former internet personality really bumps up the public attention on her case, and it makes the other inmates look at her with sharper suspicion. That amount of infamy means she can't just fade into the background. Everyone knows her story, and the narrative comes after her constantly, like it doesn't pause. The weight of being well known ends up isolating her even more, cutting off chance after chance for connection or community, even inside the prison. The mail that arrives for Ruby adds yet another rough layer. Instead of notes of support, most letters bring anger, harsh condemnation, and reminders of her crimes against children. Those letters become an endless reflection of what people outside still believe, one that has not forgiven her and doesn't plan to. Since Ruby is already trapped physically, the written judgment turns into a steady emotional load that she has to keep carrying day after day. Isolation and danger feel linked. For Ruby, they do not really separate, and the result is a prison experience that is shaped not only by separation, but by fear. and a kind of total alienation. This reality molds her mental health and her everyday ability to keep going in a very direct way. The safeguards meant to protect her from physical harm also pull her deeper into loneliness, and they raise the mental price she pays. It becomes a paradox where surviving in a prison culture hostile to her offenses is even harder than it should be. Ruby's situation sort of shows why prisons need to keep one foot in security and one foot in humaneness, especially when someone has specific, unusual vulnerabilities. While the staff try to keep her away from harm, the real psychological load of being stigmatized and then treated like a target just doesn't disappear. It stays there, like a constant thing in the background. Whether protective measures can actually shield a person from prison culture's sharpest, cruelest verdicts is still a real question, because the social dynamics, they often move faster than what the institution can control. As Ruby grapples with these dangers and the weight of rejection, another unseen enemy silently chips away: her mental health, impacted profoundly by isolation and constant surveillance. Psychological impact of isolation. Living under prolonged isolation, even for protection, triggers deep psychological consequences that gradually erode mental well-being. Ruby Franke's confinement involves limited social interaction, continuous observation, and a rigid routine. Conditions research shows can induce anxiety, depression, and cognitive difficulties. The scarcity of genuine human contact disrupts the brain's emotional regulation, leaving residents vulnerable to feelings of despair and hopelessness. Studies in psychology and neuroscience reveal that extended separation amplifies stress responses beyond ordinary prison hardships. A distorted sense of time becomes common, where hours drag endlessly and days blend into each other without relief. For Ruby, this sensory deprivation means her thoughts often spiral, making focus and clear thinking difficult. The cumulative impact can overwhelm coping mechanisms and deepen mental health struggles. Isolation also strains memory, attention, and decision-making faculties, creating barriers to rehabilitation efforts. Even therapy and medication have limited ability to fully counteract these effects when a prisoner faces continuous confinement and minimal social engagement. Mental decline in these conditions can sometimes be irreversible, underscoring how incarceration fundamentally reshapes the mind, not just the body. Ruby's experience is compounded by the emotional weight of her guilt and public infamy. She lives with the constant reminders of her crimes, from incoming letters filled with condemnation to the daily reinforcement of her status as a pariah within the prison. This ongoing psychological assault increases the risk of depression and heightens feelings of isolation, making mental wellness an uphill battle. Despite these struggles, Ruby's confinement and mental state are a reflection of the justice system's broader intent to impose a form of accountability that extends beyond physical detention. The psychological toll, while harsh, is part of a larger sentence that speaks to the gravity of her offenses. It's a reminder that punishment often transcends the courtroom and prison walls to reach deep into the prisoner's psyche. Beyond mental battles, Ruby must also face the practical realities of a sentence that stretches uncertainly into the future, forcing her to live with consequences that may last decades. The long road ahead. Ruby Franke is serving a prison term that's basically not fixed, so there's no clear release date. The Utah Board of Pardons and Parole will decide later if she can even be eligible for release and when that might happen. Because there's this in-between, unclear point, she ends up living day after day not really knowing how long she'll stay locked up. At the same time, her children are still working through what they went through. It's more than getting over it. They continue to recover with professional help. The goal is to rebuild trust and bring back a feeling of safety that was shaken. Their progress is expected to take years, which highlights how long the damage can linger. And while Ruby is incarcerated, she can't reverse the harm or return the childhoods her kids lost, so she has to live with the consequences of those choices every single day. Her case also kinda hangs around in the public eye through documentaries, news reports, and online discussions. As new audiences keep picking up on the investigation, the trial, and the sentencing, her name keeps getting linked to the crimes So the matter stays in public memory. Even though Ruby has expressed remorse, people still argue about whether that regret is true, or more like it's a response to the fallout she is dealing with now. Still, those concerns don't end up changing anything about her sentence, because it's basically driven by parole decisions and the law.
However, the defense had taken an interesting side. They're trying to pin it all on Jodi and avoid as much punishment against Ruby as possible, it seems.
Her imprisonment also carries a financial burden for taxpayers, so there's ongoing talk about public resources. Other voices say the sentence sends a strong warning that offenses against children have serious and long-reaching consequences. Now, in her early 40s, Ruby could remain behind bars for years, which means her case may become a longer-lived example of accountability and the enduring aftermath of. Ruby Franke's story is a powerful reminder that social media fame offers no shield against justice, and the consequences of abuse stretch far beyond headlines. Her sentence reflects a profound reckoning, not just legal, but deeply personal and lifelong. If this look inside her prison life gave you new perspective, please like the video and subscribe for more thoughtful stories.